Hey y'all, Angela DeJesus with DeJesus Family Farm. So I'm doing chapter 3 from How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. Excellent book. So chapter 3, I was reviewing, and it's a pretty long chapter because it covers a lot of things, but it's talking about how not to die from brain diseases. Things like stroke and Alzheimer's, dementia, those kind of things. So anyway, when I was reading the chapter, he goes in and he talks about the importance of fiber. And I mean, we all know about, we hear on the news and everything, we should eat fiber for our bowels and everything. But basically what it does is fiber handles the circulation. And because it's cleaning out our colon, it's pulling out toxins and stuff with it as it goes through our body. Basically, fiber is just that. It's like putting straw in a pipe and running it through a pipe, and it's cleaning everything out. Well, it does that in our intestinal tract, in our stomach, and what that does is allows for cleans out the lining in it. When the lining's clean and pristine, then the good nutrients can get in. Right now, if you don't have enough fiber, you're so clogged up that even though you might be eating healthier, those nutrients are not getting in because they're not able to penetrate the intestinal wall. And that's where we absorb our nutrients at. Okay, so basically he's talking about the importance of fiber in relation to stroke. And basically, stroke is when the blood flow gets cut off to the brain. So if we're not eating a good diet and we have clogged arteries, which we talked about in the heart disease thing, it can lead to stroke, where blood vessels get blocked off and they rupture, they break or burst. I had almost 2 years ago an ischemic stroke where I was at work, and I was having this, coworker was talking, and we were kind of laughing and working, a person that sat across, and all of a sudden, I looked up, and I didn't know where I was, who I was. I was looking at these monitors in front of me and this equipment. I didn't know what it was. And I was looking around. I was terrified all of a sudden because I didn't know anyone or anything. In a nanosecond, that took place. And I turned around, and my manager's office was right behind me, and I made eye contact with her. And she said that I looked at her and said, "I think I need help." And I didn't know why. I didn't know who she was. I just somehow knew that I could trust her, that she was someone I needed to reach out to. And I didn't even know how to reach out to her because we must have had eye contact for a good 15, 20 seconds before I was able to mouth those words. And she thought maybe it was blood sugar. Then my sugar had dropped and started spoon feeding me applesauce. And they ended up calling 911, and they went and said, "There's nothing wrong with you. It might just have been sugar drop." So they had me eat. My company made me go home for the day. I went into my doctor's office, who then sent me to the ER, which I should have gone in the first place. And basically, they ran some tests and said, "You had what was called an ischemic stroke." A tiny little hair, just teeny little blood vessel had burst. And in doing that, sent a shockwave in my brain, and I was disconnected. And so that was, and they did all these EKGs and everything, and they looked, and I had no high cholesterol. I had reversed a lot of my diseases, but the problem is that I had heart disease at one time, which we all do, have a form of heart disease, and I had reversed it, but this was probably one little thing that got clogged, a little hair thing, and it just, it just goes to show that, it could have been a lot worse had I had not made these choices prior, where I no longer had high cholesterol. I no longer had high blood pressure. I no longer had diabetes because I had made some changes in my diet, which changed that. It wasn't on medication. Never took any medication. Refused to take medication for that stuff. So anyway, one of the things that I had done was increase my fiber. a lot. So I was choosing, when I would make choices, what is the more fibrous choice? Not, do I go to Jimmy John's and use the wheat bread or the white bread? That was not what I'm talking about. It was, if I'm going to eat a sandwich, then my bread ratio might be this, but my vegetable ratio on that sandwich is going to be this, because that's where the real fiber is. But anyway, he was talking about the germination of seeds and soluble fiber and insoluble fiber and how they affect the body. Then he goes into about plants. All right, so potassium. Basically, what it boils down to is potassium is potash from plants, from the burning of plants. And it's a vegetable alkali. When we eat vegetables that are high in potassium, is actually what happens is that it neutralizes or alkalizes the toxins or the acids that we have in our blood. And in doing so, it increases circulation in the brain. Especially if we're trying to reverse the damage done by eating processed foods, high processed foods. But he was talking about how that, and I really encourage you to get the book, because it is so, I could sit and read it to you. I'd want to, because I read it to Jose. I could sit and read this to you, and it's amazing. This book is amazing. But anyway, a lot of people think, oh, I eat bananas. Bananas, when you look at potassium on the list, in fact, let me read that to you. Bananas, although they've been marketed for their potassium content, aren't actually particularly rich in the mineral. According to the U.S. Department of Agricultural database, bananas don't even make the list of the top 1,000 foods with the highest level of potassium. In fact, they come in number 1,611, right after Reese's Pieces. Yeah. You'd have to eat a dozen bananas a day just to get the bare minimum recommended amount of potassium. What are some of the truly potassium-rich foods? The healthiest common whole food sources are probably greens, beans, and sweet potatoes. Yeah, those are going to be the highest. So then he goes into citrus. And about citrus is like, it basically is like a laser beam. Anything that's a free radical or is attacking your body, that's viral, or anything, when you put citrus in your body, then what it does is it basically attacks the bad stuff. It goes after it like little raging warriors through your body. And he was also talking about women. This was a study that was done in like 10,000 women. And basically these are women that have abnormally cold hands and feet and are constantly cold. They seem like they're cold. Anyway, he had some of them, they did oranges and orange juice, and the other ones were given a placebo. So it was orange flavored stuff that really didn't have citrus. And the ones that did the orange juice and the oranges and the fruit, when they registered their body temperatures and stuff, they were warmer. That because of the citrus, the higher level of citrus, what it was doing was going through the bloodstream and increasing flow and circulation, which increases circulation in the brain. And so the adrenal system was working better, the internal oven was working better, and they were warmer. So they were talking about, he goes into antioxidants and stroke, and he talks a lot about how plants affect, and the antioxidants in plants affect your body. And there was how plants are like a fuel for us. And there's one chapter in here, one paragraph I want to read. He said, the plants start out with low energy electrons, and using the energy of the sun charges them up in high energy electrons. In this way, plants store the sun's energy. When you then eat the plant, or the animal that ate the plant, these electrons in the form of carbohydrates, protein, and fat are delivered to all your cells. Then your mitochondria, which we know is your DNA, take the plant's power-packed electrons and use them as an energy source. This is what is known as fuel. and slowly release the energy. Mind you, this process has to occur in a precise, tightly controlled manner because these electrons are packed with energy and therefore can be volatile like gasoline. So basically what he's saying in there, if you go and read the chapter, he was talking about how acute our body is in that we take in all this power when we eat a meal, but our body, it's not like we take it in and then poof, it burns up like alcohol. Like, have you ever put a match to alcohol and it just, whew, and then it's gone. What he's saying is our body takes it and it knows how to process and store the energy and utilize it like a really fine-tuned engine and makes that energy source last as long as it can. So he talks about some herbs in here and the importance of antioxidants in herbs. And this is something that you can do to boost your foods. And it's a little section here on page 50 that I thought was really interesting. Antioxidants in a pinch. The food category that averages the most antioxidants are herbs and spices. Let's say you prepare a nice healthy bowl of whole wheat pasta with your marinara sauce. Together, they may achieve a score of about 80 units of antioxidant power. Approximately 20 of that is from the pasta and 60 from the sauce. Now, add in a handful of steamed broccoli florets and you may end up with a delicious 150 unit meal. Not bad. Now sprinkle on a single teaspoon of dried oregano or marjoram. Oregano's sweeter and milder twin. That alone could double your meal's antioxidant power up to more than 300 units. How about a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast? By adding just a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, you could bring the antioxidant power of your meal from 20 units to 120 units. And if you can stand the pinch, adding even a pinch of cloves could bring your unassuming breakfast up to an antioxidant score of 160 units. Plant-based meals tend to be rich in antioxidants on their own, but take a moment to spice up your life may make your meal even healthier. So these are things that we can do to enhance, and it's even in the dried herbs, but not the processed mixed dried herbs where they're like toasting everything and putting all these chemicals in there to flavor enhancers. We're talking just, your regular off-the-counter dried herbs like you get at Aldi's. Don't buy the mixes. Buy your own and mix your own. But anyway, this is some of the things that I do. Like in my oatmeal nearly every morning, I add like pumpkin spice or I found this, it's called apple pie spice. And basically it's cinnamon and nutmeg and cardamom and allspice and cloves. And I put turmeric in my oatmeal because turmeric basically has no flavor. But it's just incredible what it does for your bloodstream. So I'll throw a dash of that in my oatmeal. I like the cinnamon flavor. If I'm making pancakes, I put it, the apple or the pumpkin pie spice in there. Whenever I'm making soups, I put herbs on there. In my sandwiches, when I make a sandwich, and Jose laughs at me. I've been doing this for many years now. If I make a sandwich, and I'm putting tomato on it, the first thing I do is grab that Italian seasoning that has all those herbs in it, and I sprinkle that. And it's kind of heavy, but I sprinkle it all over my tomatoes. And, or if I'm putting pickles, whatever the wet vegetable is, I sprinkle it on there because that's what holds it on there. And I'll eat that. Or if I'm just eating tomatoes, I'll do that. I'll put a little pile of herbs on my plate, and then I'll cut a cherry tomato in half and I dip it in the herbs. One, the flavor is incredible. And two, it's just really, really good for you. It's just incredible. I didn't realize, I just knew it was something that I needed to do. I felt like maybe it's something the Holy Spirit was telling me to do. I didn't know that or didn't fully acknowledge that until I read this little section. And I was like, oh, that's why I do that. So that I'm trying to reverse my diseases and lose weight. So then the second part of the chapter, he does a lot on Alzheimer's. And he talks about what Alzheimer's is and how they were actually stopping Alzheimer's almost to the point of reversing because they were actually restoring some cognitive processes when they took meat out of the diet and the diet became vegetables, legumes, beans, peas, lentils, fruit, and whole grains When they replaced those with meats and dairy as the primary staples of the diet, then all of a sudden they saw the Alzheimer's, when they were, just the aggression of the Alzheimer's totally stop. And then some back off a little bit. Now, they weren't able to totally cure it. Of course, they didn't follow them long enough, but they did see it come to a halt. And then they saw this progression where they had progressed to this level back off a little bit, which was pretty incredible. And that's just from a diet change. That's not from medication. And anyway, they were talking about how really it's not genetics. Like they say, Alzheimer's is genetics. No, it has to do with diet. And you'll see this throughout the book. The consensus is really there are very few diseases that are actually genetic. That most of our diseases are lifestyle choices, and they're cultural. Because reason it seems genetic is because we eat the way we were raised, the way our parents ate, or and it gets progressively worse. So we actually see, like, our grandparents may have not had heart disease until their 70s, 80s, or 90s, but then we see that mom and dad are getting heart disease in their 50s and 60s. Oh, well, grandma and grandpa had it. Well, now we're getting heart disease, diabetes, whatever, in our 30s and 40s, and now we're seeing our kids get it in their teens. But it has to do with, those are lifestyle choices and diet. Have you ever noticed when we go to a funeral? We go to a funeral, let's say someone died of heart disease, colon cancer, something like that, pancreatic cancer, whatever. So we all go to a funeral, and we're standing around with our family at this funeral, and we're eating the exact foods. All those comfort foods are brought, and we're eating all those foods that actually put that person in the grave. So if you really just stand and just really look at it, it's our food choices that we make that are actually destroying our body. So I encourage you to get the book, if not just to read this section on Alzheimer's. It's just amazing because we don't have to die of Alzheimer's. We don't even have to develop that if we just eat the right diet. And even if we start to see that we have memory loss or some things are going, we're in our 40s, that's a check. That is like inflammation is a precursor to something else worse is coming on. Then that little bitty glitches that we start seeing because we're in our 40s, we start seeing those glitches. It's just a precursor. It's just a check to let us know, hey, we need to stop and reverse this. And we do that with diet. Anyway, there was a study about treating Alzheimer's with saffron. And just in doing that, just giving patients saffron, just this one herb, that they saw a great reversing. It was just an incredible study that just impacted the Alzheimer's community big time. And had them looking, because of the results of that study, they had them look at look at other herbs, but it really impacted Alzheimer's community so much that they said, hey, maybe there's something to this. Now, it talks about our DNA and suppressing DNA, because we may not, what they're finding out now is, it's in our DNA that we'll have Alzheimer's. Well, actually what happens is what we eat alters our DNA, and then we transfer that DNA to our children. So he's talking about the DNA factor, and that things that actually alter our DNA, they call it the age content, which is basically it's like a geriatric, they're enzymes, or they call them gerotoxins that are actually in foods, and they call it the age toxin basically. And that they mark this in foods like the age level. So basically the age level is the genotoxin level, or the level that a food affects your DNA negatively and alters it and transfers over into your children when you have children. And it's in certain foods. Okay, so it says older adults with high levels of AGEs or age in their blood or urine appear to suffer an accelerated loss of cognitive function over time. Elevated levels of AGEs are also found in the brains of Alzheimer's victims. Where have these AGEs come from? Some are produced and detoxified naturally in your body, but others, but other than cigarette smoke, major sources are meat and meat-derived products exposed to dry heat cooking methods. AGEs are formed primarily when fat and protein-rich foods are exposed to high temperatures. More than 500 foods have been tested for AGE content, everything from Big Macs and Hot Pockets to coffee and Jell-O. The general meat, cheese, and highly processed foods had the highest AGE content, and grains, beans, breads, vegetables, fruits had the least. The top 20 most AGE contaminated products per serving tested were various brands of barbecue chicken, bacon, broiled hot dog, roasted chicken thigh, roasted chicken leg, pan-fried steak, oven-fried chicken breast, deep-fried chicken breast, stir-fried steak strips, McDonald's chicken select bread strips, pan-fried turkey burger, barbecued chicken, oven-fried fish, McDonald's chicken nuggets, broiled chicken, pan-fried chicken, baked chicken, pan-fried turkey burger, broiled hot dog, and broiled steak. So these are some of the foods that they tested. And basically what he said is that the cooking methods matter. A baked apple has 3 times more AGEs than a raw apple. However, a broiled hot dog has more than a boiled hot dog. But the source is what matters most. A baked apple has 45 units of AGEs compared to a raw apple's 13 units. And then a broiled hot dog has 10,143 units of AGEs compared to a boiled hot dog, which has 6,736. So basically, he was talking about how when we expose meat foods, even any food, but really in our meat foods, how the multiple factor is because of the fat content, and the higher the temperature, how if you're going to eat meat, you should eat it at a slower cooked, like crock pot cooked or baked, rather than flash frying or searing or stuff like that, because that actually increases the AGE levels, which alter DNA. And anyway, the chapter was just so informative. And I really encourage everybody to get the book and to watch Food Matters, Forks Over Knives, Hungry for Change. Eating You Alive is an excellent documentary. I encourage everybody to watch too. And then, so my next video is going to be on Chapter 4, How Not to Die from Digestive Cancers, which is a really good chapter too. I read this one actually twice. I read it once to Jose, and we went back through it again because there was so much information in here, and I think some of these touched close to home with Jose. So anyway, so I encourage everybody to get the book and let me know what you're reading and and you know, I would love to do a book club. That would be awesome. Or, you know, a health food documentary club or something like that. So anyway, everybody have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next video.